This video has been brought to you by Design by Humans, the online clothing superstore that offers the latest and best officially licensed shirts, hats, hoodies, and other accessories for properties like Star Wars, Marvel Comics, Disney, Nintendo, Cartoon Network, and more. Right now and until May 31st, you can get 15% off any order by using the promo code MT4 for their annual May the 4th sale. I can't promise you'll be looking this good, but you'll be looking damn good indeed. May the 4th be with you, and may you save a lot on your order. Link in the description. Parents are supposed to be guardians, caregivers who teach, protect their children, and raise them to be fine, well-adjusted human beings. That is, unless you're in the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise where some of the worst parents around reside. Yeah, none of our parents are perfect, but I'm pretty sure they're a hell of a lot better than some of the ones you'll find in the Yu-Gi-Oh anime and manga series. Forget minor annoyances like your parents being overprotective or too strict. In the world of Yu-Gi-Oh, you're lucky if one of your parents isn't a hobo, some type of psychopath, or about to bring upon the destruction of all humanity. In this video, I'll be ranking the worst of the worst parents from the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise. I'll be judging these degenerates not solely on how they treat their children, but also on individual decisions and actions. To qualify for this list, you have to be the parents of a significant character from any of the Yu-Gi-Oh series, and yes, that includes the Toei season of Yu-Gi-Oh, aka Season 0. I'll be taking into account both the Yu-Gi-Oh anime and manga series respectively. Be advised, because I will be talking about specific events and characters from the anime and manga, there of course will be spoilers. You have been warned. With all that out of the way, let's get ready to call Child Protective Services as I welcome you to the top 10 worst parents from the Yu-Gi-Oh anime and manga, the Yu-Gi-Oh hierarchy. Number 10, Jaden's parents, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Let's kick this list off with a choice that you might question right off the bat. After all, Jaden's parents were never actually seen in the GX anime. In fact, Chancellor Shepard stated that they were often away on business. Don't worry, I'm not gonna go with the never around, neglectful angle. Jaden's parents told Shepard that as a young child, he had a very strong connection with dual spirits, especially Yubel. So much so that he would even frequently talk to the card. Ignoring this might be understandable because kids have vivid imaginations, but what about after they launched Yubel into space and Jaden started having terrifying nightmares? Most parents might have considered child therapy at this point, but instead of doing something, I don't know, rational like that, they instead sent them to doctors to have his memories of ever having Yubel zapped right out of his head with some sort of CAT scanning memory wiping device or something. Where they even found these doctors, I have no idea. Keep in mind that Jaden was only 5 years old at this point. You'd think that after such a traumatic event, they'd want to keep him away from duel monsters, so maybe he didn't go completely mental and have a relapse, but instead they sent him to a duel monsters academy where the entire point was to learn how to play the game effectively, because yeah, that makes sense. Number 9, Joey's dad, Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 0. Despite the entire major plotline about Joey's sister Serenity going blind, needing money for an eye operation, and then having said eye operation that goes through both the Duelist Kingdom and Battle City arcs in Yu-Gi-Oh! DM, Joey's other immediately family members are never really brought up that much. His mother at least appears in Battle City to support Serenity during her eye surgery, which you might expect from a parent. How about his father, you might be wondering? Well, he doesn't show up at all. Why, you ask? Well, that's because he's a degenerate alcoholic with a serious gambling problem. And I'm not talking about Star Chips here. If you've ever seen or read Season 0, you know Joey's dad is an abusive drunk. In fact, in one scene, Yugi, Tristan, and Taya show up to Joey's home, worried because he hasn't been in school for a couple of days, and they think that he might be skipping. After they knock on the door to no answer, Tristan notices the door is cracked. He decides to take a little peek inside, and to his surprise, Joey's dad throws a beer bottle at the door and shouts out, "Hey brat, where have you been for the last 2 days?" What a class act. Number 8, Zane and Cyrus Truesdale's parents, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. I didn't slap Jaden's parents with the neglectful tag, but I definitely will for these two. Let's talk about my boy Zane for a second. Everyone knows after Zane loses his nationally televised duel to Aster Phoenix, he becomes one of my favorite characters in the entire series. Dark and edgy Season 2 Zane. This leads to him doing some underground pain duels where you get electrocuted every time you take damage. If this sounds like a good way to get yourself killed, that's because, well, it pretty much is. But whatever, maybe you could say that his parents didn't know, and I think I have to buy that. Well, how about after those underground duels and playing the underground deck leaves Zane with an extremely chronic heart condition where he can barely walk in season 4? You'd think that his parents would at least, show up then, right? Wrong. It's his little brother Cyrus who spends most of his time pushing around Zane in a wheelchair while mom and pops are still MIA. Number 7, Luna and Leo's parents, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. I get it, it's hard raising kids in New Domino City because that place is kind of a shithole in a lot of areas, especially post the Zero Reverse. But when I think about it, their parents still have crap for judgment. For starters, Luna was shockingly a pro-level duelist at the age of freaking 3. Wrap your head around that. She was beating grown-ass adults when she had just gotten out of diapers. Why someone would allow their toddler to even compete in competitive duels at that age is completely beyond me. Maybe she was mature for a 3-year-old, if that's somehow possible. While the twins are largely supervised by adults at all times, their parents don't know any of these people. They just meet Yusei on the street and Leo's all like, hey dude, come live with us in our penthouse. This is even more crazy when you realize that Crow and Yusei are both technically criminals in the system. Hell, even Yusei had to duel his way out of prison in the first 10 episodes of the show, leaving your 2 kids with complete strangers for multiple years. Yeah, that's definitely good parenting. Number 6, Kiyoshi Kagami, aka Revolver's dad, Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains. This guy isn't just a bad parent, he's actually a pretty cruel person as well. He's an incredibly smart scientist who tirelessly works toward the good of human evolution. Seems commendable, right? Except he kinda dooms the entire human race when he tries to make the successors to humanity and the Ignis, and then one of them deems that they're superior to humans and declares war on all of us. Oops. Well, accidents happen, right? Yeah, but that doesn't explain or excuse his terrible methods to which he used to evolve the Ignis. He forcibly took young children from their homes and made them do nothing all day but duel, only stopping to sleep when necessary or eat, and food, by the way, was only provided when they had victory in those duels. This experiment left every single one of those kids scarred for life, and it even got so bad that he was turned into the authorities by his own son. See, even this kid knew it was a piece of crap. Number 5, Leo Akaba, Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V. I don't want to go too deep into Arc V's plot because the final arc in the Academia can be a little confusing, but more or less Leo Akaba was taking some incredibly drastic actions to resurrect his daughter Rei, like merging 4 dimensions into one and causing the deaths of millions, if not billions of people level drastic. Maybe you could say that this is somewhat understandable if you think of it in the context of a father's love for his daughter, until you realize that this jerk has a second daughter named Rera and an entire second family that he basically ignores throughout the entire show. His son Reggie, founder of the Lancers, absolutely hates his guts because of this, and Rera isn't quite old enough to understand just how bad her dad actually is. So when you put this guy in the context, he's willing to kill millions of people to bring his daughter back to life, but at the same time ignores his other 2 children. Number 4, Mr. Otogi, aka Duke Devlin's dad, Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 0. This guy isn't just a monster, he is straight up human garbage. Long story short, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 0, he engages in some risky business where he plays a devil's board game against Yugi's grandpa, Solomon Moto, for ownership of the Millennium Puzzle. He of course loses, and because it's a shadow game, there has to be some type of penalty, right? He ages 50 years in a single night. Years later, after opening up his own game shop, he learns who Yugi Moto is and immediately frames him for stealing merchandise at his store. He then takes away the Millennium Puzzle and forces Yugi to play Duke in a game of what else but Dungeon Dice Monsters for ownership of the puzzle. Halfway through the game, when it looks like Duke is losing, he gets completely pissed off and breaks the puzzle into pieces, but that is not even the worst of it. Once Duke actually loses, he proceeds to try to literally choke the life out of Yugi and even threatens to break his neck. He even tells Duke that the only reason he was born was to fulfill his revenge, and that since he had lost, he was no longer his son. Number 3, Gozabara Kaiba, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. If you really think about it, this is such a sad story because you could actually make a strong argument that Gozabara started out as a good and loving father. I mean, he did kind of get hustled by Kaiba into adopting him and Mokuba. Afterwards, he immediately told his biological son Noah that he would have to compete with Kaiba for his inheritance. I mean, yeah, that's kind of putting a lot on grade school boys, but okay, I understand tough love. The problem is, after Noah's car accident, so Gozabara basically uploaded Noah's brain into the internet, and I guess that's what normal grieving parents do. He gave him a couple of nice programs to mess around with, but then he just completely forgot about him because Seto was just killing it in the business world. Maybe that doesn't sound all that bad, but the fact that he made plans to take Noah's e-consciousness and upload it into Seto's body is really messed up. I don't even understand why he thought that that would even work in the first place. I mean, wouldn't there just be two minds in one body? So instead of having one crazy son with no body, he'd have two crazy sons inside of one body. Number 2, Mr. Ishtar, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. Can you say worst childhood ever? First off, Mr. Ishtar made American Ishizu stay deep beneath the Egyptian tombs for their entire childhoods for the sake of protecting the Millennium items. They could not leave for any reason at all. It was basically like that movie Room with Brie Larson, but somehow actually worse because there were cobras there. He also carved a huge tablet in the Merrick's back, which was so painful, it caused his son to go completely mental and create a second personality to cope with the physical pain. When Merrick and Ishizu decided to finally go to the outside world and he found out about it, he decided that Ophion was to blame for some reason. He didn't like him anyway, so I guess it makes sense. He took a whip to his back, it was heated knives in the manga, and went to town on his adopted son. So bad temper, physically abusive, traps his children from the outside world completely, you know, the usual. And finally, to our number 1, Vector's dad, Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. There are bad parents, there are terrible parents, and then there is Vector's dad, who is in a class all to himself. He isn't just the worst parent in Yu-Gi-Oh! History, he might be the worst parent in all of history. In his time, he was a fierce conqueror known for brute force, and when he grew ill, his wife instructed his son Vector to take over in his place. Vector was known for his kind nature, a far cry from his father, and decided to end wars in lieu of peace treaties. This absolutely enraged his father, but did he give his son a good talking to, maybe try to sway him through dialogue or a slap upside the head like a normal dad? Nope, he was so pissed off he jumped straight to good old-fashioned murder. He took Vector's sword and tried to stab him to death, only to end up hitting Vector's mother instead, which of course fatally wounded her. Damn it, don't you hate when you're trying to murder your son but accidentally end up killing your wife instead? Oh well, when life gives you lemons, right? Anyways, let me know what you guys thought of my list. If there were any other horrible Yu-Gi-Oh! Parents that you thought about that should have been on here, leave that in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.